So it's been a little while since we talked to Anita MonCrief, and a little bit stuff's been going on with ACORN.
I think a few more people might be familiar with the name of the organization now.
I would think. We have Anita on the phone now to kind of bring us up to speed. And you've been studying and writing. Anita, what's the latest?
Well, thanks for having me. Lots been going on. I'm kind of excited the way things are going because it seems like everyone is paying attention now and they realize that ACORN is not the way it portrays itself to be to the media, that they're out there helping the poor and they're very good-hearted people. I have to say that I am very proud of Hannah and James for what they have done with these videos to actually get the word out there.
Right.
Last time I checked yesterday, Bank of America had dropped ACORN, and the board member of ACORN Housing, a J.P. Morgan Chase executive, had also stepped down.
I remember one of the last times we talked to you, a big thing for you was the fact that follow the money and that nobody really knew what was going on the books when it came to ACORN. Even the board members didn't have access to the financials, if I remember correctly. How did you feel when you heard that the Treasury has decided to look into ACORN?
I was ecstatic, but at the same time I was a little worried because last year a board member told me that she had walked into an ACORN office and saw them shredding documents furiously. And I was watching the Nevada hearings today where the investigator was told that computers had mysteriously crashed after the voter registration drives.
Oh, great.
So I'm a little skeptical of what they'll be able to find because they've had a lot of time to get the house in order, which is something they've been working on since 2008.
Mm-hmm. And the other aspect of ACORN that's been not just confusing, but makes it really difficult to understand why it was such a big deal in some ways, and you've raised this, is there's so many different organizations intertwined where it appears that money had been being passed back and forth. Do you think by addressing the ACORN issue that people will be able to go farther and look at how all of these organizations, some working out of the same building, were able to kind of funnel money back and forth? Or do you think it's going to be hard to move past just taking down ACORN and they'll be able to kind of shift business over to those other groups?
No, I see that the tide is changing. People are starting to realize that it's not just ACORN, it's some of its affiliates. And with the IRS backing off, I think the next step may be a full investigation as to how the rest of these entities work. I know that people on Capitol Hill are pushing for that right now. Banier's office in ISA, I'm sorry, never say that one right. They're both pushing for full investigation, so hopefully that'll bring down some of these what we call feeder organizations that have been slowly funneling money into ACORN over the years.
Now, you have been writing lately. You did a piece recently on Big Government about the relationship between ACORN and SEIU. Mm-hmm. We know that Wade Rathke essentially runs, I guess, the local in New Orleans, and there's long ties between the two.
Have they actually proved the Rathke connection
now?
Because was it the brother that was also involved with SEIU that they were saying? I know Beck said we think he's involved, but we haven't been able to actually nail down his position.
I think Beck's question was post embezzlement, when
right.
the brother embezzled the money. Once he was out of ACORN, I guess there have been some allegations that he may be doing some work with SEIU.
Okay.
Do you know anything about that, Anita? And then go ahead and educate us more on the relationship between ACORN and SEIU.
Well, as far as Del Rathke is concerned, I've heard those same allegations that he was heading up something with SEIU Local 100 out of New Orleans. I saw that in an article, but I'm not sure as to what his position would be and if he really did step up to that. As far as SEIU and ACORN are concerned, they're considered to be sister organizations. In a 2006 annual report that I found online, they're listed as basically a sister organization of ACORN. They were part of what ACORN called the Council. The Council of Organizations meant that they had the same type of health insurance. We were all under one group plan, and SEIU utilized CCI in order to bring in all their money. Apparently, I wrote a blog post about this in February. Apparently, SEIU decided to step away from ACORN around 2005, and they broke ties away from CCI. This had more to do with Department of Labor investigating how the money was being handled since it was union dues than it had to do with them trying to actually break away from ACORN. So to this day, they still work hand in hand on a lot of campaigns, including the one that I wrote about, which was the Carlisle group, where SEIU paid ACORN to go out and protest. ACORN, of course, didn't tell this to its members. They just used the same type of tactics they've always used, such as saying, you don't want these rich whites to come into your community and not bring anything. And they galvanized the people, but they were getting paid for it.
What is the? I'm remembering back of the allegations that are out there, the people that have been arrested or charged that are related to ACORN, related to voter fraud. Dozens of cases around the country. Do you think, which of those is the biggest problem for ACORN legally?
I think the Nevada case is going to be very troubling because they do have a witness that's willing to testify against ACORN, and they have evidence and documents. I was watching the hearing today, and they do have documents that show how to use quotas to pay the workers for per voter registration card. They talk about some of the fraudulent activity that they uncovered when they went undercover with. They were wearing wires, and they were telling them how to register to vote, and they needed phone numbers, and sometimes they asked if the person was a citizen, sometimes they didn't. So they've got a ton of information from undercover investigations, and I think this is going to be a tipping point for ACORN with this voter fraud thing. They've always been able to skirt around that and say fraudulent registrations don't turn into fraudulent votes, but technically it's still fraudulent activity.
When you saw the videos come out of the undercover investigations that O'Keefe did in Baltimore and other cities, were you surprised by the extent of them in terms of the things that ACORN employees appeared to be willing to do to help them?
No, I was horrified, but I was not shocked because I saw that we talked about this in 2007 at a meeting that was for ACORN political operations staff. And we talked about the fact that they were hiring people of low moral character. And when the subject was brought up, someone yelled out crackheads and started laughing because they knew that that's some of the type of people that they hire because I speculate that it's because they can easily throw them under the bus. That was one of the things that was brought up today in the hearing, is that the person that was testifying had several felonies, which they were trying to use to discredit him. So when you realize that these are the type of people that are in the offices across the country, it's not surprising that they would succumb to what Michelle Malkin calls the culture of corruption. It's almost inevitable.